Think about it. The most evil peoples on earth are almost always obsessed with the Jewish people. So the end times is the convergence of all these things, all these forces, and the war of the dragon and the war of the beast. And so to understand the end times, we have to understand this. So I shared with you last time that the Hebrew word for dragon is the word tanin, which also means serpent and also means monster. The enemy is a monster. What happened on October 7th in Israel with that invasion of Hamas was a manifestation of that fact and of that war, an ancient war in our time. And it converged with the mystery of the dark resurrection that we opened up last time, the mystery of the Philistines. Now there's more to this. And you see, what were the ancient Philistines like? Well, in the first reference, when God speaks with the Exodus, he says, I'm not going to lead them this way because it's going to go to the Philistines, and when they see war, they're going to go back. They're going to want to go back, and they're going to get discouraged. So the thing is that, what's it saying? As soon as if they come into contact with the Philistines, there's going to be war. What does that tell you? The Philistines were a war people, a militaristic people. They were linked to these things. They were aggressive. They were warlike. Archaeology bears witness of it. Philistine culture revolved around war, glorified those who were brutal as heroes. So with the Philistine resurrection, we'd expect the ancient characteristics would come upon them. Yasser Arafat became their leader. He was a violent man. And so he trained them into violence, and so then others did as well. And they've done studies where the majority, can't say the most recent one, I don't know, but in the past, where the majority were in favor of shedding the blood of Israelis. In the book of Ezekiel, it says this: because the Philistines acted in vengeance and took revenge, and with deep contempt, destroying because of their ancient hatred. Ancient hatred. It's as if the spirit of the Philistines came upon this people and transfers. Remember the story of David and Goliath. Remember, Goliath was a Philistine. And the soldiers of Israel were terrified of him. But the shepherd boy David rises against him. So David is talking to Saul to David, king, and he says, you're not able to go against the Philistine to fight him because you're a youth. And he's a man of war from his youth. Think about that. Think of that phrase. A man of war from his youth. Man of war from youth. What does it tell you? The Philistines trained their children from childhood to become soldiers. And not just to become soldiers, but it says he's a man of war from his youth, to be actual soldiers. So would that manifest in the Philistine resurrection? Well, it has. Modern Palestinian culture, or Philistini culture, trains its children to become soldiers from the earliest times. In school, they train them to hate and to kill Israelis. They're sent to summer camps to be trained by Hamas to kill Israelis. In children's entertainment, they're trained to hate and kill Israelis. They have these figures, these like animal figures, like, I forgot what it's called, like Farfel the mouse or something. And, he gets killed by Israelis, and so they rise up, this other one rise up, where I will avenge his death, and killed by Israelis in the show. They're training the children to hate the Israelis, that they could kill them and feel justified. That's why October 7th happened. Among the Philistine warriors, prominent were the archers of the Philistines. And they could shoot from a distance. These were the original long-range weapons. They were coming after King Saul. That led to his death, as the archers were coming after him with their arrows. An arrow is actually a form of a missile. It's defined as a form of a missile. Missile is this object here that goes through the air. So the ancient Philistines fired deadly missiles into the air. Listen to one Bible commentary that speaks about the death of Saul. It says, after the fall of his sons, it says, the archers discovered Saul and began to aim their missiles at him. Another Bible commentary says this: Saul and his men now found themselves under heavy bombardment by the missiles. So the ancient mystery replaced, because now what's happened is one of the chief weapons of the resurrected Philistine people in Gaza has been missiles. They're firing, that's the whole, you know all about, they're firing all these missiles into Israel. And in the wars of the Philistines and the Israelites, technology was key. There's a scripture that says there was no blacksmith to be found in all the land of Israel. For the Philistines said, unless we can't do it, or the Hebrews will be able to make swords or spears. So the Philistines were practicing metallurgy, and particularly making their weapons out of iron. Iron weapons, it's the beginning of the Iron Age, and the Philistines were on top of that. They were stronger than bronze, or better than bronze weapons. So the Philistines had an advantage in their wars against Israel. Well, the Gaza Strip has been filled with secret production centers of iron and steel, which is an alloy of iron, to make missiles, to make weapons. They took humanitarian aid and repurposed it for war. So the iron weapons of the Philistines allowed them to dominate Israel until David came. David employed iron and turned the tables. So iron was crucial when you have a war between the Israelites and the Philistines. Well, you know what's amazing? Because this whole thing resurrected. When you have this a modern war between the Philistines and the Israelis back on the modern stage, the mystery of iron resurrects. Israel's defense against the missiles from the land of Philistia, Gaza, would be called the Iron Dome. Israel's defense system, which was aimed at keeping the Philistine Hamas from expanding its tunnels into Israeli populations, was called the Iron Spade. Israel's protective barrier against militants and terrorists was called the Iron Wall. Israel added defense not only against rockets, but drones and mortar, and it was called the Iron Beam. And Israel's military system, designed to intercept long-range rockets from the Philistine people, was called David's Sling. So now I want to take that and let's talk about technology and prophecy, because technology is a part of prophecy. Could the Bible actually speak of atomic weapons and nuclear destruction? Well, in speaking of the end times, the Lord said, it says in Revelation, the Lord said in his discourse, and it's echoed in Revelation, that it says that stars will fall from the sky. It says the powers in the Bible, it says the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Interesting. Because the word for heavens there is the Greek word oranos. Comes from that word. You know what comes from that? Uranium. It is from uranium that comes the power of atomic warfare, nuclear destruction. That's the first, where it all came from. From the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Okay, and that means that. But could there be other levels? The powers of Uranus, uranium. I'm not saying it's not the first meaning, but it may have a layer. It's amazing. And some of the destruction described in end-time prophecy and in the book of Revelation resembles nuclear destruction.